Okay, so you guys have done a great job learning the building blocks. Now we can learn another very important grammar rule. Grammar rule number 4. Make sure that the subject and the verb make sense together. If a subject is underlined, check the verb. If a verb is underlined, check the subject. Here's an example of subjects being underlined. The ducks swim in the water. The duck swims in the water. The professor's lectures are boring. The professor's lecture is boring. Now let's look at some examples of underlined verbs. Her house is a mess. Their houses are messy. I love the pasta. He loves the pasta. Notice the trick here is to find out who is doing what. But be very careful. The ACT pulls 2 tricks that you must be aware of. The first trick is that they put a lot of words between the true subject and the verb. Here's an example. The collection of the items at the store blank for sale. Okay, your ear wants to say are, but the true subject is the word collection. It is for sale. Here's another one. The use of cell phones is prohibited at school. Okay, A, no change. B, are. C, could have. D, omit. All right, let's look at this. Let's check omit first. Nope, we can't do that. The sentence needs a verb. All right, let's look at C. I threw this in for fun. I know we could say coulda, shoulda, woulda, but in actual written English it should say could have, should have, would have. So C has to get out of here. It's not right. Now we have to decide if it's A or B. From your lesson, you should know that A wins. The use is the actual noun here, not the cell phones. Okay, one more. Here's the example. The girl with the red hair who dated lots of guys at my school sometimes call me. All right. You should know that the girl is the subject and the verb must be calls. Okay, some people prefer to look for these little words called prepositions. These are usually in the middle of the word, separating the true subject and the verb. Prepositions are little words that give us specifics. They make sentences wordy, but they do tell us specifically what we're talking about. Here are the most common ones. Say them with me a few times. For homework, please say this a few times while you're brushing your teeth tonight. It'll help get them into your head. Of by for, come on, of by for, with two, on in. Of by for, with to, on in. Okay, if you see one of these words, you cross it out and everything else up to the verb, you will have a much easier time figuring out the true subject of the sentence. Here's an example. The color of the paints is beautiful. The color is the subject. You can just cross out of the paints. The use of cell phones, blank, prohibited. Well, what do you think? Is works because the subject is the use, not of cell phones. All right, now test yourself. Mike, with his friends, blank to the party. Is it Mike goes to the party or Mike go? Put me on pause. Decide. Write it down. It's Mike goes. Okay. The other trick happens when there are words that represent a lot of things, but we treat the word like one group. So it's really singular. For example, in the sentence we just saw, the word collection is singular. So are schools, sports teams that don't end in an S, like the Browns. So Central High is awesome, and the Heat was a good team, okay? A few other words are like this. The word audience, the word everyone, the word everything, the word everybody. I know it seems crazy, but that's the way it works on the ACT. Here's some examples for you. His collection of cards is cool. The collection is singular. The audience stood to its feet. The audience is considered to be one thing, an it. The Heat was a good team, not were. Okay, a school is singular. Central High School is a great place. It won its first championship. A company or business is singular. Microsoft is a company that makes a lot of money. Okay, the other ones, everyone, everybody, everything. Everyone likes to go there. Everybody makes A's. Everything is great, okay? So let's review a minute. The subject is the doer. Remember, LeBron won the game. The verb is the action. Won is the verb in that sentence. A full sentence, remember, means we have two things, a subject and a verb, and we're not left on a cliff. Mrs. Arts dances. Mrs. Arts dances when. A pronoun is a professional noun. A preposition gives directions, specifics, of, by, for, with, to, on, in. Subject-verb agreement. If the subject is underlined, check the verb. If the verb is underlined, check the subject. The ACT's tricks. Lots of words may be in between the true subject and the verb. There are also subjects that seem plural, but they are actually singular. Okay, check yourself. Subjects and verbs must make sense together. The tricks by the ACT that will try to get me confused. Remember, lots of words between the true subject and the verb. The pages of the book on the table blank faded. Okay, pause me. The answer is are because the subject is pages, okay? Prepositions, they use of and on like prepositions. Can you think of any more? Pause me. Of, by, for, with, to, on, in. Okay, let's review subject-verb agreement. The shadow of the buildings freaks me out. Okay? The word shadow is a true subject, so it freaks me out, not they freak me out. Okay, let's test your knowledge of subject-verb agreement. Make sure you got it all. Here's some examples. The shadow of the buildings freaks me out. The word shadow is the true subject, so it freaks me out, not they freak me out. The man by the doors seems creepy. The man is the subject, not by the doors. The girls, for the most part, like him. The girls are the subject. Hopefully they don't like the creepy guy. Annie with her friends goes to the game. Annie is the subject, not the friends. And finally, the wallpaper on the walls is ugly because the wallpaper is the subject. All right, now we're ready for a new rule, pronouns. Okay. We have to turn to these evil things called pronouns. Number one, always be suspicious of pronouns. And remember, track down the noun and make sure we need it. We need that pronoun. The most common pronouns, we talked about them in the basic training. I, you, he, she, it, we, you, they. Then we have me, us, him, her, them, his, hers, ours, theirs. To remind you, pronouns are little words that take the place of nouns. They're kind of like professional nouns. So instead of repeating ourselves a million times, we can call Bobby him, and we can call the football players them. Or LeBron would be a he or a him. The seniors are they or them. My high school, if you've been listening to me, is an it. Grammar Rule 5, write it down and learn it. When I see a pronoun, I track down the noun. Say this a few times. When I see a pronoun underlined, I will track down the noun. I know you're thinking, you're just repeating yourself. Of course I am. It's that important. These guys are guilty until proven innocent. They typically commit 2 fouls, all right? A, the pronoun is not the right one. It's not correct. And B, it's unclear. Okay, let's see some examples of these 2 things, and then you can start learning them cold, just like I told you. Let's say the rule together. When I see a pronoun underlined, I must track down the noun. Hopefully you're not in some library where someone's telling you to shush, okay? Just tell them to be quiet. You're learning grammar. Okay. See what noun the pronoun is supposed to be filling in for. Here's an example of the wrong pronoun. The motorcycle club raced by us in a cloud of dust, semicolon. I did not understand their hurry, okay? A would be no change, calling the club there. B is its. C is it apostrophe S. and D is delete. Okay, if you've been listening to me, you know that you should first check the delete option. That does not work because we can't say, I did not understand hurry. Okay, you sound like a computer. Now let's look at A. There refers to several people, but in this sentence, we're talking about the club. One thing, we're talking about an it. So if we look at C, that means it is, and so we know the answer is B. Okay, we're going to come back to the its in a minute, but we know it's an it, okay? Most commonly, the ACT gives you a singular noun that most people would think of as plural, like a school or an animal species. They love that for some weird reason. Or the word audience or collection. Here's an example. The University of Alabama won its 5th championship. Oh, maybe I should say the Ohio State. Not there, okay? Or here's another example. The dolphin is found in the Pacific. Okay, it is a remarkable animal, not they. Okay, here's another one. The Cherokee is an awesome Native American tribe. It still survives, not they still survive. Okay, it's written English, guys, not spoken English. You got to learn it. So that lesson about plural nouns that the ACT Singular comes to play, I usually tell people if you see an it, check out whether it should be a they. If you see a they, check out whether they should be an it. Okay, that's a very easy way to catch them in this trick. Okay, now let's look at A. There refers to several people, but in this sentence we are talking about the club, so we're talking about an it. Just to review that example, we knew to track down the noun. If we read the sentence and we're not clear that what the pronoun is doing, because it could be more than one joker doing it, then we have to clear it up and we have to say that who we're talking about or what we are talking about instead of using the shortcut pronoun, okay? You are not allowed to use a pronoun if the reader is going to be confused about what you're representing with that short word. If I'm looking at a group of male students and I say, he needs to come here. And everyone's like, who? Me? You guys don't know who I'm talking to, okay? And which one needs to step forward and see if they're in trouble with me, okay? Here's an example of an unclear pronoun. The city cleared the nature trail and paved it so they would have a peaceful place to hike and bike. Okay, A, no change. B, knowing they. C, that they, or D, people. Now, right off the bat, when you read that sentence, you should have thought to yourself, I don't know who they're talking about. So let's check that out. They cannot work because a city is a singular noun. You should be starting to get that now. If you aren't, think about this. Okay, you're going to see a concert and the band has 4 members. You don't have to buy a ticket from each one of those members. You buy one ticket for the whole band, okay? So it is a group of 4 people, but we treat it as a singular thing. Okay, now that we have that clear, let's go back to the problem. We know that B and C are also incorrect because we've talked about it having to be clear. So the answer has to be D. All right, so let's review pronouns. Rule number 1, everybody say it, track down the noun. Make sure that it's the right one and make sure that you need it. The most common pronouns, I, you, he, she, it, we, you, they, me, us, him, her, them. You kind of should have a feeling for what they are. Okay, now we can move on, if you're ready, to Grammar Rule 6. And I promised you we'd get to the its. IT' and ITS. You need to write this down and learn it. Now stay with me here as we learn the it rule. Okay, write this down and memorize it for life and you'll never have to get it wrong again. Ready? Here we go. IT' means it is. That little apostrophe shows that that I is missing. ITS means something belongs to it. The word ITS' does not exist in the English language. All right? So here's an example. Wedged between 2 buildings and casting a shadow twice its IT' height, the old courthouse remained an important part of the downtown area. Okay, A, no change. B, Its, I-T-S, no apostrophe there. C, their, and D, them. Okay, if you learn the rules, which I'm hoping you do, you would know that the old courthouse is an it. And it is does not work in this sentence. So the answer showing possession would be B. The courthouse owns its shadow. It is does not work. All right, try these examples. Put me on pause if you need to. I like the beach. Blank fun. Blank really cold here. That phone is so loud. Can you put blank ringer on vibrate? Okay, put me on pause for a minute and then we'll check them. Ready? I like the beach. It's fun. It's IT''S, really cold here. That phone is so loud. Can you please put ITS ringer on vibrate? All right, let's review. Grammar rule number 5, pronouns. Track down the noun. Remember, track down the noun. Pronouns are little words that take the place of nouns. When you see one underlined on the test, you track down the noun. If it's easy to figure out, get the right pronoun. If the pronouns don't work, you probably need a real noun. Okay? When you're ready, let's review rule number 6. It's with IT''S means it is. ITS means it owns something. Something belongs to it. Good job, everybody. I'll see you in the next lesson. Okay, you guys have done a great job on those pretty difficult rules, the things I put you through already. Now we're going to learn a few easier rules. Here we go. Grammar rule number 7, tense. Follow their lead. Okay, we talk about tense situations. People get really mad at each other, like brothers and sisters. And you started it, she started it. Okay, so the ACT covers tense in a different way, but they still look to who started it, okay? They are talking about present tense or past tense, like present tense, you study, or past tense, you studied. Or even there's something called ongoing past tense, you have studied many times. Or like a future tense, you will study. Okay, you don't have to know all that, you really don't. All you have to know is to follow whatever they started, okay? My best advice is to check the sentence and see what they've started already in the sentence. And if you can't find it, look at the sentence before. If it's past tense, keep that. If it's present tense, keep that. If it's future, I will, then keep will. Okay, here's an example. It's going to sound weird because there's a problem in it. Such treatment of the students were to be the exact future that Martin Luther King envisioned for all children in the world. Okay, were to be is A, no change, and that's what sounded weird. If it were, and that sounds kind of weird to me, whatever, C is was, and D is if it was. Okay, let's look at this example. The only verb I spot is the word envisioned, which is ED, which is past tense, simple past tense. I envision, he envisioned. Now I have to look for that simple past tense, okay? And so to talk about yesterday, you would use the word was. So that's past tense, so the answer has to be C. Don't make it harder than it is. Just take what they give you, look what they gave you in the sentence, and you should know the answer. Okay, here it is said another way. Use the tense that they set up in the sentence or the paragraph. Okay? Now, one more thing you should keep the way they started. And the fancy word for this is diction. But we'll just call it how fancy this thing is. All right, we need to keep that the same as well. Okay, be aware of anything that sounds really corny, like, honey, that fits you like a glove, or that suits you to a T, or anything that sounds too casual or street, like, that works, dude. No, not for the ACT. You got to keep the same level of formality that they do. Now, also, that means don't try to start sounding smart by adding all these extra words. They speak, and their test is written in a very simple, straightforward smile. So another way to say that is to keep it simple. Don't add extra words if you don't have to. You don't get any extra points for trying to sound super smart. Keep it simple, and here's an example of that. It is July, and the smell of flowers fills the air. Okay. A would say no change. It is July. B, due to the fact that it is. C, It turns into the month of July. D, because it has turned into July. Okay, if you've been listening to me, which I hope you have, you know the answer has to be A, no change. There's no reason to say more than you have to say. Here is another example. That dress fits you well. Okay, A, no change. It sounds pretty good, right? That dress fits you well. B, that dress suits you to a T. Okay, way too corny. Leave that to your old aunties or aunties. Okay, C, that dress works, baby. Okay, way too casual, like for those people who judge how the stars look on the red carpet. Not for us. D, that fits your frame well and accomplishes your fashion goals. Okay, did that sound really robotic and wordy? It is. All right, so now you get my drift. We want A, keep it simple and straight. Not too formal, not too corny, not too street. Keep it the way they write the test. Now, some of you might be saying, dang, Mrs. Arts, there are so many A's on this test, or F when they do that FGHJ thing. That's what they do to help keep your answers bubbled in correctly. So it's actually a nice thing. It's not supposed to be as confusing as it sometimes is. Well, yes. The approximate number of correct as written is 1 out of 5. I said that in one of the initial discussions with you. That means if you have 15 answers per passage, then you could have at least 3 no changes. So don't be shy about picking that one. It's often the right answer, okay? So remember, approximately 1/5 should be no change on the grammar test, okay? So don't fear the A. Don't fear choosing the A, okay? It's often or the F when they use that different order of letters. Okay, so we've added 2 more rules to your toolkit. It's getting big now. You have to get a bigger toolkit. Keep tense the same. Keep the fanciness the same. All right, so let's review grammar rule number 7. Follow their lead on tense. If they have been using present tense, then you use present tense. If they use have or had, I had been going to that store since I was 4 years old, then you use it too, okay? Word choice, nothing too fancy, nothing too street. Okay,